Beware the decomposition of your faith. Hello, everybody. A lot of things that I've been meditating upon because I literally, and I have a somewhat hopeful update for you about all the things I'm going through physiologically. So, the things that have been on my mind concern decay, spiritual, mental, physical, emotional, how we go about handling our handlings, whatever we've got on our plate, taking comfort in the fact that God will not give you more than you can handle. So the consumption of whatever it is in front of you, just remember that to whom much is given, much is required. And the more I put out, the output, bigger bullseye on my forehead. Hello, everybody. Batman here. The update being I got a call from the expert, the local in San Diego resident expert on the disease potentially that I'm going through. Now, I had described it as potentially, not knowing fully what the definitions were, flesh-eating bacteria, not unlike becoming a zombie, not unlike the stunning and amazing recent Sunday episode of the prequel to Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. Absolutely amazing. If you can get your hands on it, I don't know what to say because there are so many. God embeds marching orders and intel in pop culture and big entertainment platforms, and this is no exception. It's just us. It was just one thing after another. In that episode, the king is decomposing. Literally, you see him like a zombie with one eye socket, everything's gone, and half of his face completely eaten away. Now, the update for me was that what I have is not flesh-eating bacteria, is not, in any sense of the term, the modern-day equivalency of leprosy. What it is has probably because there's no like set thing that why one person gets it and another person doesn't get it, but my foot is currently still under attack, and they think that it might have something to do with my using my right foot on the gas pedal. I drive a taxi, an actual Ezekiel chariot. I log about 5,000 miles a month. Just to put it in perspective, I average about 5,000 miles monthly, and that little motion on the pedal is what may be affecting the joints on my right foot. Now, the expert physician surgeon that was talking to me said that it is a 2-month window where I am. The foot is mostly in jeopardy, is at risk of retaining, mind you, in your prayers, your intercessory prayers appreciated, a permanent deformity. That right now on my left foot I have an arch. On the right foot it can be, and they still have to do an MRI, a combination of inflammation, diabetes, which I have gotten under control. I'm eating things that are diabetic friendly. In here, you can see, look, Brussels sprouts and a fake lobster type fish, which is heart friendly and diabetic friendly, essentially staving off other things to make it easier on my foot for the neuropathy, which is where the nerve endings at the end of the toes and at the end of the fingertips start warning you, warning, Will Robinson, danger. I have noticed a substantial decrease in those nerve endings going like this since I started the diet, and that is in turn helping what I'm going through with the foot. But basically, the foot is being overwhelmed with too many things to have to contend with at any one moment. So now I've done something that will help me substantially with the dieting, and it's a silent killer, man. You don't want to get to the. And I thought I was getting very close to the pinnacle, to the summit of no turning back. Then amputation being discussed as the ultimate warning. You're going to lose digits. Um, what they said was that right now it's either inflammation or um, that the foot is deforming for that 2 month stretch where the foot is collapsing basically under too many things that it has to deal with, including the driving, right? And then one of the experts that I had spoken to a couple of days ago said, "Well, if that is the worst case scenario, uh, you have options that paraplegics have in order to continue driving, which is to put like you're pedaling a bike with the right hand, you would pump brakes to brake the car, and you'd have to learn it, and the left hand, uh, worst case." But I've been praying about it, telling high command, Batman needs his legs, man. So the doctor said, really don't put any pressure on the foot right now, because if you, God forbid, but if you were to twist your ankle during this 2 month window, the ankle will stay twisted and you will be permanently deformed. So that's the scary thing right now that I'm going through. So I'm walking very gingerly, watching my surroundings. Maybe in a spiritual sense, this is also types and examples. The passage from the Bible for meditation today is from the book of Zechariah, chapter 14, verses 12 through 16, talking about how God's going to turn enemies of the promised land into literal, not figures of speech. Fair warning to all y'all out there that are plotting and have dedicated your lives to being servants of the losers. The whole story, the whole outcome has already been decided. Victory in Christ, victory snatched from the jaws of defeat, from the grave. Jesus descended to Hades, where a bunch of people from the Old Testament days leading all the way up to the point where he completed the work, where it is accomplished, was declared. Tetelestai is the operative word. From the cross, 7 sayings from Jesus from the cross. Final one, seventh and final, 7, a number of perfection. Tetelestai, it is accomplished. Up until that accomplishment, there were people in a holding pattern. This is where the confusion has arisen, and especially now where my family has participated in the ceremonies, paying final respects for now. Then a joyful reunion down the road, awaiting those who are in heaven, are part of the welcoming committee. The patriarch, the father of my better half, and he's with the Lord. And the warning that comes from the next to last book of the Old Testament is saying God is not going to play around. At some point, there's going to be an anatomy, horrific thing that's going to fall upon anybody who tries to mess with Israel. It's like, remember the saying, don't mess with Texas. Even imagine that times infinity when you're dealing with supernatural powers and principalities that can create havoc on the body. Don't be afraid of what nukes can do, what guns can do, what germ warfare can do. All these things are like little toy pistols. Even a nuclear bomb compared to what God can do. No armaments, no clay ammunition created by created beings, including angelic. Angels are clay. They were created by original, beautiful, holy, and unsurpassed architectural blueprint designs, blueprints of how the materials were made, that the angels are made up themselves of. They cannot outperform things that are designed in heaven, things that are created in heaven. But the warning is, you had better watch yourself, because A, getting old sucks, and things change where you suddenly aren't the spring chicken that you once were. But with that said, fortunately, maybe the equalizer is that Batman gets a little more savvy. He becomes more the detective and less the Action Jackson, as in days of old. A lot of the stuff that I've been going through is documented here, as well as all the extra awesome resource materials can be found right here. This is the daily digital devotional, even on Saturdays and Sundays. It's part of a larger ministry set of things that are being done on a regular basis. This is our monthly benevolence redistribution. This is a 501c recognized, federally recognized charity, so you can get a tax write-off if you decide to help us, and we thank you in advance for that. All of this to champion the causes of someone in whom we've entered into a business partnership, and the scripture and the Bible describes it as being married to the job, the bride of Christ, marrying into the heavenly royal family business, going above and beyond just believe and receive. You believe and receive, you're going to get into heaven. That is great, but there is a group set apart. There is what's called in the Bible the remnant, and that group is not just immortals. Immortality is yours, fantastic, but immortals and royals for having carried out official assignments, having gone above and beyond the call of duty, having been given scripted adventures, and then going out and completing the task. Our own mini tiny version of Tetelestai, our own accomplishments. And these are stripes earned on a spiritual military uniform, and they add up and they accrue, and it is a cumulative score. Remember, gang, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And the tasks are many, and in the employee manual itself, the cup of Christ, you will share in the sufferings before you share in any spoils of warfare, of germ warfare, or what have you. So those of you who aspire to put me in the game, coach, all excited and everything, be careful. You need training. Mortal Kombat, as we discussed yesterday, you got to really do what the Bible says, become a bookworm of the good book. There's so many things to master, and it's inexhaustible. You could study one section of the Bible for 10 years and never reach the depths. That's how profound, that's how beyond and wonderful all of that is. Mind staggering and logic defying. So with that said, that gives you the jump point for the meditation. These videos are created the day before the issue of the following day. And so right now we're in the Mortal Kombat. My Padres are taking on they are the David versus the Goliath, the Los Angeles Dodgers. And we are looking like a different team. So the regular season ended, and this is postseason. And spiritually speaking, we may be at end of days, which I have coined here on numerous occasions, the end of the beginning. So this is the postseason. This is your time to shine. And you're on the clock, and time is running out for them, and they are very well aware of it. They are running nervous. You see a lot of the current events, the headlines, they are scrambling. They are saber rattling and trying to push us into nuclear Armageddon through the Nazi leadership in Ukraine. We're having none of it. They're trying to goad us into being a more violent society, internal strife, so that they take away your guns. Remember, don't take that bait. Do not count on, I'm pro-gun, but do not count on any conventional weapons during this time. We're dealing with powers and principalities. We need to, in fact, invite those who have been our enemies to join the table and the discussion. I have a person who is paying attention that is a young guy by comparison. He's 19 years old, something like that. And he's an aspiring writer on the East Coast. You know who you are, hello. Asking me for tips on writing, but he's telling me, well, the stuff that you publish, obviously lots of thought put into it, and the presentation, the packaging, so unique, and he appreciates all that. But at the same time, he's all theosophically, like a big $2 word, meaning the philosophy or the analysis of the theology of the religion approaches and takes themselves, I'm not in sync with what you're saying. I have different viewpoints. I believe many more people can get to heaven. This is him talking. And I don't want to dampen his enthusiasm. So you want to be careful about that when you're sharing the good news of the gospel, because people, they could get turned off, and you could be at fault for turning them off for doing that. But for him, as well as for a great many people, like we just went through paying final respects, the burial with full military honors of Soledad's dad, the patriarch of her side of the family. A lot of people there are at so many differing levels of what they know about God. Maybe they've kept God at arm's length, feeling too ashamed to really lay everything out. And by the way, FYI, they know you. There's nothing you can hide from them. There's no hiding place. They know all your junk, me also. All fall short. They know all my wicked ways. I call the Apostle Paul the walking contradiction, because on multiple occasions, the Apostle Paul, what I do, I don't want to do, and what I don't want to do, I do. It is no longer I who sin, but the sin that lives in me. That Apostle Paul. So imagine if he made it. Imagine there's hope for all of us. The walking contradiction made it. Oh, the guy, King Solomon, another one, who had, for political alliances, lots of wives. And then on top of that, unnecessarily, you could make the argument, he had a whole stable, no other way to put it, to use the terminology normally referencing the little area, the dorm room, if you will, at a campsite for horses. He had a stable of concubines. This isn't on top of the wives. But those wives, the political alliancing that he has to own it. He caves into them to appease the neighboring rival countries, and creates furnaces where they literally charred babies alive in sacrifice to the likes of Baphomet, Belial, Beelzebub, and Baal. And yes, that walking contradiction, King Solomon, he's up there. He's part of the heavenly hosts and saints that Jesus went to Hades and personally escorted them out of there and resettled them in heaven, in paradise now. So the issue that we just talked about yesterday, which is fascinating, is this issue of, well, when we pass away, we're not in a holding cell any longer. We're not in that containment field at Hades, awaiting final decisions. That is now, or that threshold has already been tetelestai. He has accomplished that. And so your last breath here, your first breath there, and then right then and there, they check you, and then you find out what your ultimate fate is. But by then, it's too late. You can't, I woulda, coulda, shoulda, had I known, Lord. You're going to try to worm your way out of the final rendering of the decision, the fate that awaits us all. You can't escape it. But it's like this, the idea of that there's a timeout, you're going to go to sleep for a while, the theories that were expressed. We're going to cover this on the following day's devotional briefing, such as this. I think it's going to be for tomorrow, is on the book of a passage from Thessalonians talking about, you're going to go to sleep, kid. The soul is not going to go to sleep if you're heaven bound. The soul, and I don't know if in heaven, that's a discussion for another day. Is there sleep in heaven? Do you actually wind down and relax? Is there relaxation? I would think so. I don't know if it's a full-fledged sleep. I don't know what the purpose of the sleep is for, because sleep right now would be a time when things are uploaded into you, sometimes to wake you up because you're sleeping funny, you're cutting off circulation so the body gives you an unpleasant memory and you jolted from it. But often is the case where the Lord is sending intel, is uploading things into you, so that I had one today, and I I had to go, well, because I normally don't remember my dreams. Today I'm driving my car, and I hit a gigantic pole that almost no damage to the front of my car. I tapped it, as it were, and the whole thing, and I'm talking a pole that maybe goes as high as like 80, 90 feet. Big pole came bam! Right, I was going into a parking spot, like a dedicated parking spot, bam, and the whole pole came down. Nobody got hurt. And full disclosure, I got in the dream, I got a little nervous and I backed out of that spot and I went to go find a spot where I was like this, going, well, I hope that this wasn't caught on camera. I don't want to have to pay a bill about it. It can mean many, many things. So don't just dive into the first, if you're hearing this, what the first interpretation could be about that. And yes, I'm going to drive a little more careful today in the Batmobile. And I'll probably be taking the afternoon off to watch the game. I invited my father and mother over to watch it here. So have yourself a great day, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow. The passage from Thessalonians about sleep, I'm not worried about it, because I know that the Ezekiel chariot, perhaps, as we covered in the magazine yesterday, is fascinating. So this Ezekiel chariot, the preferred mode of transportation used by the citizenry in heaven, going spiritual logistics from point A to point B. It's flashy, it's amazing. You read about it, and it cannot be duplicated. All the fanciest, schmanciest chariots, as it were, the rides, pimp my ride on earth, can't touch what kind of thing. And the theory, we received a police escort from the church to the burial site yesterday, in the final funeral rites, with full military honors. He was a veteran of the Coast Guard. My potential posthumous future in-law, and the police were handing out, and we put one on our car, funeral sticker. And there were like 10 cops, many of them on motorcycles, that were directing traffic and moving us from point A to point B. And I was thinking, the meditation was on that day was, well, what's that chariot like? Does everybody get a chariot now? So in the Bible, you have this well documented example of Ezekiel, the chariot coming down, picking him up, blast off, heading from here to eternity, right? Awesome. Does that happen to everybody now that it's the heaven bound? Is there an Ezekiel chariot that takes you? You don't have an option of not boarding it if you're scared. There's no OPT, there's no opt out of that. You don't have that luxury. You're saying, that's okay, I'm good. Then what? You just roam the earth like Casper the Friendly Ghost? Fat chance. This is the bed you've made. You're lying in it now. Wake up, Sleeping Beauty. The time is now. Evil forces are conspiring. They are working on overtime right now. Restless, running very, very nervous. They've got a diaper rash. They know what's coming. Do you? See you mañana.